Have you ever stopped to think if the fate of a life, perhaps the wildest and most feared, could be in the hands of a single touch of compassion? It's one of those questions that makes you stop what you're doing, isn't it? Prepare your heart, because the story we're about to tell you today isn't just about an animal, but about the unwavering strength of spirit, the capacity for overcoming adversity, and a human-animal bond so pure it seems to have been woven by the stars themselves. I swear this one will make you feel a lump in your throat and a warmth in your chest at the same time. In the middle of the Kalahari, an arid vastness where life is a constant whisper between survival and surrender, a majestic male lion, regal by nature but scourged by the relentless drought, was about to take his last breath. Imagine the scene. The hot air vibrated over the cracked earth, and the dense smell of dust and despair hung in the air. His bones, once hidden beneath powerful muscles, were now visible, outlining the silhouette of a pain that seemed unbearable. It was a sight that would make even the most hardened turn away. But the universe, my friend, has its own plans, and sometimes it places angels in our path, or in a lion's path. Enter Thomas Keller, a German veterinarian, a man whose heart beat to the rhythm of the wild. He wasn't there by chance. Something in his spirit guided him to that point, to that palpable suffering. The fine sand beneath his feet could barely muffle the sound of his own racing heart as he came across the sight of Leo, a wounded giant, a desolate king. You might wonder who, in their right mind, would dare approach a dying lion, a predator, in its most vulnerable and unpredictable state. Most would turn their backs. But Thomas felt something different. It wasn't fear. It was a connection, a silent call coming from that fragile, almost lifeless body. And what he decided to do at that moment, what he felt seeing the latent resilience in that animal's eyes, would change not only Leo's life, but that of countless other creatures, and, would you believe it, the perception of thousands of people about conservation. It was there, under the merciless desert sun, that the first spark of hope ignited, defying logic and nature itself. And what happened next is something you'll want to see with your own eyes. That encounter in the heart of the Kalahari was not just a coincidence. It felt like a destiny sealed by the hot savanna air itself. Thomas, the German veterinarian, AI, man who understood nature's whispers like few others, approached Leo with a caution that mingled respect and an almost irrational courage. The lion, with its matted mane and body wasting away with each breath, could barely react. His heavy eyelids slowly opened and closed, revealing a dull gaze that still carried a fragment of its former majesty. Who hasn't felt that an animal understands your soul, even without words? Thomas felt it there, in that crucial instant. It was in this moment of deep connection that Thomas noticed something surprising. Despite the skeletal body and extreme weakness, there were no signs of aggression. Lions, even when ill, can be unpredictable, and their first reaction to a stranger is usually defense. But Leo was beyond that. He was on the threshold, and the only thing emanating from him was a silent acceptance, almost a plea. A little-known fact is that sick or very old lions, when they feel helpless, can enter such a deep state of lethargy that their response to danger drastically decreases, making them even more vulnerable. Can you believe that? Thomas knew every second counted. With delicacy and surgical precision, he administered first aid, trying to stabilize the giant. The smell of dry earth and the muffled sound of Thomas's own heartbeat were the only noises amidst that vast silence. He cleaned the visible wounds, gave the first fluids to combat severe dehydration. It was a race against time, against death itself lurking on the horizon. A practical lesson we can take from this: the importance of acting quickly in an emergency, whatever it may be. Often a prompt response makes all the difference. Thomas didn't hesitate. He saw a life in danger and acted. And would you have the courage to act like that in the face of such a great challenge? Leo's fate was now in his hands, and the night was just beginning to fall over the desert. The Kalahari night can be unforgiving. The air that crackled with heat during the day now brought a biting cold, and the distant howl of a hyena tore through the silence, reminding them of the fragility of wildlife. Thomas, however, wasn't thinking about the cold or the surrounding dangers. His mind and body were entirely focused on Leo. He set up a makeshift camp, a small island of hope in the dark vastness, smelling the dew mixed with the earthy scent of the lion's fur. He spent the night awake, watching each of Leo's weak breaths, like a parent watching over their most precious child. This constant vigilance might seem exhausting, but it's a pure example of loyalty and commitment. Thomas knew that the slightest sign of improvement or worsening needed to be noted. And it's not just in the wild that we see this, right? Think of a caregiver, a nurse, or even someone who stays up all night for a friend or family member. This tireless dedication is a driving force for overcoming adversity. Oh, and a fascinating curiosity. The sense of smell in felines is so keen that a healthy lion can scent an animal miles away. In Leo's case, his sense of smell was weak, but Thomas wanted the scent of safety and care to be the only thing he felt. At dawn, with the first rays of sun painting the horizon in golden and reddish tones, Thomas realized he needed more than just field first aid. Leo needed a hospital. Can you imagine the challenge of transporting an adult lion, even a debilitated one, for hundreds of miles over inhospitable terrain? Pause and feel the adrenaline of that moment. There was no time for luxury. With each passing minute, Leo's life was slipping away. That's when logistics became an act of faith. With the help of a support team, a helicopter was called. The sound of the blades cutting through the air, such a strange noise in the Kalahari's silence, was the melody of hope. Watching the lion being carefully hoisted, with all the fragility of its skeletal body, as the wind kicked up the reddish dust from the ground, was a moment of great tension. And if you love emotional animal stories, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any. Because Leo's journey was just beginning, and the biggest challenge was yet to come. At the veterinary hospital, reality imposed itself with brutal force. The diagnosis? Devastating. Leo wasn't just starving and dehydrated. Tests revealed severe spinal damage and muscle atrophy so advanced that, honestly, you could feel the discouragement weighing in the cold air of the operating room. Many veterinarians, with all their experience and pragmatism, would have suggested the unthinkable: euthanasia. The prognosis was grim, the chance of recovery almost nil. Can you put yourself in Thomas's shoes, hearing that after everything he had already done? But Thomas wasn't just a veterinarian. He was a guardian of life, and something in his instincts told him Leo had a fight to fight. That faint glimmer in the lion's eyes, that hope he felt in the middle of the Kalahari, couldn't be in vain. He insisted. He insisted with a conviction that seemed like a sign from the universe, a stubbornness driven by an unwavering faith in that animal. He said, "Let's give Leo a chance to fight." And doesn't life often surprise us when we least expect it, when we decide not to give up? The decision was made. Leo would undergo complex surgery, a high-risk procedure to try and repair the spinal damage. Hours stretched like centuries as Thomas and his team worked, the smell of antiseptic dominating the environment and every movement being calculated with millimeter precision. The tension was palpable. You could almost cut it with a knife. And for those who think wild animals are just instinct, know that the capacity for recovery and resistance to pain in lions and other big cats is impressive, a result of an evolution that prepared them to survive in the most adverse conditions. After the surgery, the battle was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. Thomas didn't just supervise, he dedicated himself entirely to Leo's care. It was days and nights of constant attention, feeding him small portions of meat, cleaning his wounds, moving his atrophied paws to stimulate circulation. It was a marathon of love and resilience for both the lion and the man. Who hasn't been through a moment of total dedication to someone they love, knowing that every small effort can make a difference? That gentle touch, that calming voice. And the big question was, would all this be enough to bring Leo back from the abyss? The weeks after surgery dragged on, marked by an exhausting routine of care and a silent tension. Thomas, with his tired but hopeful eyes, remained by Leo's side, offering every ounce of his energy. that scent of antiseptic and the quietness of the medical environment were the soundtrack to days that seemed endless. Who hasn't waited for a small sign, a tiny spark, to rekindle faith in something that seemed lost? Then it happened. One day, as Thomas made his morning rounds, with the soft morning light filtering through the window, he noticed it. A slight twitch, then a subtle movement. Leo's tail, which had previously lain inert, moved. It wasn't a strong movement, but it was there. A small ripple, almost imperceptible, but for Thomas, it was as if the universe itself had applauded. Can you feel the emotion of that moment? For a lion, the tail is more than an appendage. It's a center of balance, a communicator of emotions, and a vital sign of health. Seeing that small movement was proof that life was, indeed, fighting to return. This was the breakthrough, the green light for the next crucial step: physical therapy. Imagine a lion, a king of the jungle, now dependent on daily exercises and stretches like an athlete in rehabilitation. The sessions were long and required infinite patience from Thomas. He massaged Leo's atrophied muscles, feeling the rough texture of the fur under his fingers and the faint warmth of the lion's body. He taught him to move his paws to strengthen his core. It seemed like a delicate and painful dance, but full of purpose. A curiosity. Many wild animals have a remarkable capacity for muscle and bone recovery that surpasses that of humans, thanks to their evolution in environments where injury can mean death. 2 months passed in this tireless routine. 2 months of small advances, some frustrations, and a lot of persistence. And then, the miracle. With Thomas's firm support, Leo took his first steps. It was wobbly, clumsy, like a cub learning to walk, but every paw that touched the ground was a victory. The soft sound of his claws scraping the rehabilitation center floor was the sweetest melody Thomas could hear. Who isn't moved to see someone overcome a giant obstacle after so much effort? These first steps weren't just physical movement. They were a cry of resilience, proof that hope should never die. But would this recovery be enough for him to one day return to the wild? As Leo's body gained strength, a new kind of miracle blossomed there. In the quiet days of recovery, the development of a bond between Thomas and the lion that defied all logic. It wasn't just a veterinarian caring for a patient. It was a relationship built on sleepless nights, gentle touches, and a trust that transcended species barriers. A healthy lion's roar can be heard up to 8 kilometers away, a testament to its power. But the communication between Leo and Thomas, believe me, was much more subtle and profound, almost like a whisper of souls. Have you ever had an animal that seemed to read your thoughts, that understood your mood before you even uttered a word? It was exactly like that with Leo and Thomas. The lion, who once saw man as a predator, now saw him as a safe haven. He responded to Thomas's call, laid his head in his lap for a caress, and even purred softly, a sound that, for a lion, is a sign of extreme contentment and relaxation. It was a tenderness that radiated through the environment, with the clean scent of animal hygiene products and the gentle warmth of the lion's body. This human-animal bond wasn't just emotional. It became a vital part of Leo's recovery. Thomas's constant touch, his calming voice, and his unwavering presence were as healing as the medication and physical therapy. Mutual trust accelerated the process, as Leo felt secure enough to try new movements to push the limits of his resilience. A lesson we can take from this: that love and attention dedicated to the vulnerable, whether an animal or a human being, are powerful tools for healing. The friendship between Thomas and Leo was a rare spectacle. They spent hours together, often in silence, just enjoying each other's company. Those who witnessed the scene were astonished. How could a man and a lion develop such intimacy? Pause and reflect on the power of this connection. But the question hanging in the air was, would this special bond be strong enough to withstand the inevitable call of the wild? Leo's recovery was a miracle in itself, but the big question, the elephant in the room, was, could a lion who spent so much time in human care, who developed such a strong human-animal bond, return to the wild? The decision was difficult, full of debates and concerns. Thomas knew Leo's place was in the savannah with his own kind, but the thought of separating from that furry friend, whom he literally brought back from the dead, pained his heart. The smell of damp earth after rain in the release area evoked wild freedom, but also uncertainty. The day of release finally arrived. The team was apprehensive. Watching Leo exit the transport crate, tentatively stepping onto the familiar ground of his natural habitat, was a mix of relief and anxiety. And here's a crucial curiosity. Reintegrating large felines into the wild is an extremely complex process, requiring months of preparation to ensure their hunting and survival instincts are sharp again. Leo, to everyone's surprise, showed remarkable resilience, gradually readapting to his environment. Days turned into weeks. Thomas observed from a distance, allowing Leo to regain his autonomy. But the story didn't stop there. Months later, Thomas decided to visit the region where Leo had been released. He was hopeful, but prepared for the fact that wildlife demands distance. Imagine the apprehension, the accelerated heartbeat as he stepped onto that ground again, feeling the warm wind on his face. And then, the unthinkable happened. It wasn't Thomas who found Leo. It was Leo who found Thomas. Guided by an instinct that went beyond simple memory, the lion approached the man, with the same trust and affection he had shown during his recovery. More than that, Leo did something that surprised everyone. He guided Thomas to his pride. Yes, you heard that right. He introduced the man who saved him to his wild family. The other lions, initially cautious, accepted Thomas's presence, almost as if Leo the lion had told them about his savior. It's irrefutable proof of how capable animals are of memory and loyalty. This magical moment, the introduction to his wild family, was the icing on the cake of an already unbelievable overcoming adversity. Who isn't moved by such a pure and unexpected reunion? This scene shows that true friendship knows no barriers, not even between species. But Leo's story was destined to impact far more than just one man and his pride. The story of Leo and Thomas didn't remain confined to the edges of the Kalahari or the corridors of the veterinary hospital. It echoed, my friend, like a lion's roar on a silent night, crossing borders and touching hearts worldwide. Leo's overcoming adversity, the human-animal bond forged in hardship, and Thomas's tireless dedication transformed into a powerful narrative of hope. The curious thing is that often it's a single story, a single face, or a single mane that has the power to awaken collective consciousness in a way that complex statistics and reports cannot. Have you ever felt that power of a personal narrative? This inspiration came at a crucial time. The drought that almost took Leo's life continued to plague the region, threatening countless other lions and wildlife. Thomas, driven not only by his love for Leo but by the vision of what his story could represent, realized that this was the moment. He used Leo's notoriety to launch a rescue and support program for lions and other animals affected by water and food scarcity. It was a call to action that resonated globally, with the scent of a new purpose hanging in the air. Money began to be raised, teams were formed, and Leo's story of resilience became the emblem of a greater cause. Seeing Leo's image, once skeletal and now strong, emblazoned on campaign materials, was a vivid reminder of what care and conservation can achieve. He stopped being just a lion. He became a living symbol of conservation, a furry ambassador against climatic adversities and human ignorance. Think about it. How many times can an individual action trigger a wave of change that benefits thousands? The lesson here is clear. Your passion and your story, however small they may seem, have the potential to inspire grand actions and impact the world in ways you can't even imagine. Leo's legacy, however, was only just beginning to solidify. Leo, the lion who defied death and became a beacon of hope, lived the rest of his days in a protected area, a true safe haven where he could reign with dignity and peace. It was no longer the same arid savanna where he was found, but a sanctuary where the grass swayed gently in the wind and the smell of freedom mingled with the security of a home. Thomas, the man who rescued and loved him, visited him frequently. Imagine these encounters, this routine of one friend visiting another, even if one of them was a king of the jungle. Each visit was a reinforcement of the human-animal bond that transcended all barriers. The sight of Thomas and Leo together, the man caressing the lion's mane, was living proof that friendship and loyalty know no species. These visits weren't just for Thomas. They were a constant reminder of Leo's resilience and the overcoming adversity they experienced together. Think of your own lasting friendships. Like them, the connection between Thomas and Leo was a treasure, a gift. An interesting curiosity about lions in protected areas is that by having less stress from hunting and competition for resources, they tend to live longer and have larger, healthier families. Leo lived many happy years, a full life that seemed like a dream, given how his journey began. But like everything in life, one day his physical journey came to an end. Leo left us in 2019. The silence that followed his departure was heavy, almost palpable, like a farewell whispered by the wind through the trees. But the story of Leo and Thomas didn't end there. Far from it. It spread, gaining a voice in every corner of the world, an inspiration that continues to move mountains. Leo's legacy lives on in every animal that is saved, in every child who learns about conservation, and in every person who regains hope upon hearing his journey. Leo's story is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest situations, love and dedication can light a flame, transform destinies, and leave an eternal mark. And you, have you ever had an animal that changed your life? Tell us in the comments. And so, we come to the end of the chronicle of Leo, the lion of the Kalahari. A journey that began with the despair of a dying king and blossomed into the purest overcoming adversity, weaving a human-animal bond that transcended the boundaries of understanding. The story of Thomas and Leo is not just about an emotional rescue. It is a testament to the untamed resilience of the spirit, to the hope that blossoms even in the deepest drought, and to the strength of friendship that knows no barriers. Leo became much more than a lion. He became a living symbol of conservation, a touching reminder that every life matters and that compassion has the power to transform the world. He taught us that, just like a lion's roar, a single act of kindness can echo for generations, inspiring conservation programs and changing the way we view our four-legged brethren. Isn't it incredible how an animal's story can give us so many lessons about our own humanity? This chronicle reminds us that nature is fragile, but also incredibly capable of surprising us, and that our actions, however small they may seem, have the power to create a lasting legacy. May Leo's inspiration continue to guide us, showing us that, with love and dedication, we can do the impossible and build a world where every life has its chance to shine. If this story warmed your heart and made you believe a little more in the magic of life, go ahead and hit that like button on this video. And to continue to be moved and learn from the incredible stories of the animal kingdom, don't miss the next video suggested by YouTube, which will captivate you even more. Click now